if there's an end to this conflict, it's seemingly less likely day by day right now. How do you see it ending? And basically, what is the end game? Will there be a two-state solution?
Okay, so when we talk about the conflict, for many people, this conflict began on October 7th. Some people said this conflict began in 1967. Some people, and I think this is the correct answer, partially, there's no correct answer, started in 48 with Israel's existence from the river to the sea. Or did this conflict start with in the year 70 ACE, when the Jews were expelled by the Romans, or in the Bar Kokhba rebellion, and they were exiled around the world? And I'm going to just use that as a point. After almost 2,000 years of Jews being massacred, pogroms, the Himmi status in the Arab world, crusades, Inquisition, and the Shoah, anybody says Israel doesn't have a right, or Jews a right to defend themselves, I really don't have much patience for. Because not only an American interest, but I'll tell you, as a Jewish American, nobody's going to protect Israel, and Israel doesn't ask anybody to protect them. They do not want American soldiers dying for them. So Israel and Jews there know very clearly, right to left, religious or secular, besides the extremes, that they are on their own to a large degree, and they don't ask for anything other than munitions of what's there. So back to the question. What was the question?
What is the end game?
Okay.
Will there be a two-state solution?
So let's talk about two states for two peoples, because that's what our administration has been asking for, saying this is all about the occupation. So let's start with the word occupation. According to international law, not politicized international law, the West Bank is disputed territory. You may think it should all go back there, but according to all should go back to the Palestinians. You may believe that. But according to international law, there was never a stakeholder there. There was never a nation of Palestinians. It is definitely disputed by true meaning of international law. That does not mean that that's where you're going to go. We know it's not where you're going to go, because the Israelis at least 5 times have offered the West Bank 2 states to 2 peoples, and were turned down. Most recently in 2007, where more than 100% of the West Bank and pieces of Israel were given in a land swap, including East Jerusalem. And Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, said, no. How do I know this? I interviewed the choreographer in the room to know independently that Abbas never even responded. I've interviewed President Clinton, Camp David and Taba, just read their words. Arafat was offered about 96%. Their response was the Second Intifada. 1967, Israel offered back the land. After it staked off what went on, got the 3 no's: no peace, no negotiation, no recognition of Israel. 1948, within hours of Israel, in May of 48, 6 Arab nations invaded, and actually been 6 months before, where you had Palestinian Arabs who were already in a civil war with Israel. So 2 states and 2 peoples, from when people throw it out, have zero understanding of it. When I go in that part of the world and people talk about 2 states, more times than not, when you delve deeply, and that's why I tell Congress, don't use the word 2 states to 2 peoples, not 2 states. 2 states to the Palestinians is an Arab state in Gaza and the West Bank, 100% no Jews, and a binational state in Israel within the 1949 armistice line, the 67 borders, there were no borders, with unlimited right of return, which would be the demographic destruction of the Jewish state of Israel. So 2 states is another 1-state solution. So will there be this? Until there is a profound change in Palestinians, you're not going to have this. Now, Israelis, they're not too much in favor of 2 states or 2 peoples either, because they don't trust the Palestinian Arabs, because they were in this path in the 90s during Oslo, and once it started going, they were dealing with suicide bombers, and people forget this, before the Second Intifada, from 95 to 99, buses were blowing up. You forget about the buses blowing up after 2000. Buses were blowing up all the time, to try to ruin the Oslo Accords. And Arafat was not keeping his word. And then, when the Second Intifada started in 2000, and a whole generation of kids couldn't go to malls, couldn't get on buses, it created a society in Israel who are millennials, I guess, now, and a little older, who are more right than their parents because they saw how peace was reciprocated, and so the country moved to the right. This is not about Bibi and Likud, but the country moved to the right because they did not trust the Palestinians to be neighbors. You look at October 7th, the people in the kibbutzim, in the moshavim, all around the Gaza envelope, they were actively, most of the people around there, a significant majority, were people of the left, inviting in Gazans to come in, work in their fields, act as security guards, whatever, while they were doing reconnaissance, the Gazans coming in, and that's how they knew every kindergarten, every place every armory, they knew where even a dog was in a house because they had done amazing intelligence reconnaissance. So the Israelis are not stupid. This is existential for them. So when we flippantly say, let's move to 2 states for 2 people, on the first initial response is, you're rewarding terrorism. On the second response is, listen, if somebody can prove to me that Israel can be totally secure. I'm a security guy. I'm not a greater Israel guy in that sense. If Israel could be proved to be secure, and I know that Israel only can be secure if it has the Jordan River Valley, if it has the hills in Samaria, if it's demilitarized. And one thing, and I'll just say this, I had this conversation with President Clinton, who put his heart and soul into trying to find a resolution in the late 90s. He said, when I brought it up with him, he couldn't understand why the Israelis were so insistent that the Palestinians sign an end of conflict resolution. That would mean I want to buy Judy's house. I give her $1 million for her house.
I'll take it.
And then a couple of months later, Judy says, I didn't mean the third upstairs bedroom. I actually didn't mean the kitchen. I didn't mean the backyard. That they refused to sign an end of conflict resolution. And that really shows the intention. They're not there at this point. Are there Palestinians who would? Yes. They are in the minority. When you look at the surveys of Palestinian polls of Palestinians, reliable, they are not for 2 states, for 2 peoples, and they don't believe Israel has a right to be there. And they look at Israel as land thieves, the Jews that are there. That is uncomfortable facts. I'm not telling you any of this to depress you. Again, it goes back to what I said. I'm telling you, if you want to make peace, don't endanger the people of Israel, deal with the facts as they are, and then you can move forward knowing the facts and context, not burying them, and we'll deal with them. The whole idea, we'll deal with the hard issues later, never made any sense to me.
Thank you. This is a very important question, Eric. Is Israel necessary for American national security interests?
So we have people of the right and left who say no. We have neo-isolationists. I had a conversation in Italy with Vivek Ramaswamy, who basically wants to stop all aid to Israel. He's not an anti-Semite, but he doesn't think it's in American national security interests. Bigger problem is people on the left who think of Israel as a fascist state. Israel doesn't have a right to exist. It is like the United Nations Human Rights Council, the worst of countries. And it doesn't have a right to even fight for its interests. It's been condemned more than any other place. But for America, for the vast majority of Americans, they know that Israel and America have values that we share together. Imperfect democracies, both experiments in democracies, but we work together. The Research and development, just we'll talk military, has saved our soldiers' lives. When we withdrew from Afghanistan, we relied on Israeli intelligence. We can talk about what Israel has brought to the world in medicines, biotech, that we rely on all over. Is Israel important for the United States? Just like, can you imagine if 6 million people weren't killed in the Holocaust, how many Albert Einsteins were in there and where we could be? Israel, the 7 million Jews that are there, provides services to the world that we take for granted, but it is our only reliable ally in the region. Turkey is Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt is an authoritarian regime. Qatar, which we've made a major non-NATO ally, supports jihadists of all stripes, including letting Hamas leaders live in luxury. Only Israel is not only democracy, but really America's best friend. We won't always agree on everything. I don't agree with everything with Israel. But overall, we need an Israel. If we didn't have an Israel, we have no other choice. And then we would get sucked into the Middle East. Israel has been doing our fight in many ways for a long time.
Do we have more time, Judy?
I'm getting hungry, Judy. No,
I'm just going to skip to this question.
I'm happy to stay for as much as you like.
I'd like you to answer this question because I think probably many people in our audience would like the answer. It's interesting to hear how Israel and the Arab nations view the outcome of our elections for their well-being and peace in the Middle East. The viewpoints may differ, but that would be fascinating as well. Although ICA has always steered clear of politics, this would be from the Israeli and Arab vantage points, not the American perspective.
We live in such a polarized place, it's still an incendiary question. So I will talk facts and context. From the Arab point of view, let's just start. They want Israel to win. That's clear. From the Israeli point of view, there was tremendous appreciation in the first couple of months after October, with President Biden being incredibly strongly supportive and referring to himself as a Zionist. Afterwards, it became much more muddled as there was some supply line slowdowns. I know this only because I was on the front lines when supply line slowdowns were occurring. Former President Trump had a list of things that both Democrats and Republicans previously had never done, as basically a contrarian. The embassy move, recognizing the annexation of the Golan, the recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. So from the Israelis, they have a sweet spot for Trump. They don't care about his domestic politics. They live in a world of authoritarians. They don't look at him and his personal foibles the same way Israel does. Right now, there are people in Israel I've met with both who are there are Democrats who live in Israel, Americans who live there. There's Republicans I was actually on a panel with them on television when I was in Israel. Republicans for I don't know if they also call Trump, but Republicans living in Israel or whatever it is. I think Israelis don't know what they're going to get. I think they're hesitant. I think when they're smart, they don't get involved in American politics because they don't know who's going to win. Let's say they wanted Harris. If Trump won, boy, that would be. Trump's still angry at Bibi for recognizing the election back in January, and vice versa. If Bibi is perceived as being very partial to Trump, would a Harris administration, be much more difficult? I don't know, but for American interests, it is very important to be close with Israel, and Israel should stay out of the political fray.